Hey, what's up, guys? So we all know that one of the big things about Safemoon was its reflections, and it's a really cool idea, but there actually is a huge problem associated with it, which is that the major problems with projects are the whales. And after covering Safemoon for almost a year, I was tracking the wallets, and as soon as they announced the blockchain exchange, I would see that whales would keep selling. So the whales are getting the most reflections, and they already have the dominance over the project. And in order to get those reflections, they have to sell them. So what appeared to be a really cool idea, which is reflections, ended up becoming an extra layer of dominance that whales had. In a normal project, all they could do is sell their bag. But in this project, they're getting even more out of all the volume. People with smaller bags, their reflections might be nice, but not to the extent that you would actually consider selling it. It's people that are getting thousands of dollars that have to sell their reflections. So what a really cool concept about Safemoon ended up becoming a part of the problem of why projects don't do well necessarily. And then, there was other projects that were doing like BUSD rewards, like Nobility and Evergrow, and many other projects actually do that. And that was really cool because BUSD converts it to the dollar value. So your bag cannot go down or up. It's just a stable bag. Your rewards are your rewards. But even to do that, it has to sell the token in order to convert it to the BUSD. So it's still selling, it's just not the whale selling. Reflections are not being sold over here with Safemoon. The contract is not selling the reflections, it's just redistributing them. But then it comes down to the whales selling. But with BUSD rewards, then everything is being sold automatically into rewards and then distributed to everybody. And in order for whales to gain that position, they have to rebuy the token. They have to take their BUSD and use that to buy the project, which is nice. It raises the project. So there's kind of pros and cons to both of these ideas, but there still is a whale dominance problem. The whales are the number one problem in projects, and it's not like it's their fault. It's by design. These people are going to get the most, and what's going to stop them from selling? And by adding rewards and reflections, they're really cool, but they basically kind of fuel that same problem. Because whales have the project by the balls. I always say that. They're like, if they sell, people lose FOMO, people lose interest, and it's very hard to get utilities or hype going again on a project where whales have sold and tanked the price by a lot. And this is where I think other alternatives are needing to come into play to try to increase the longevity of a project, which is to have an effect on whales that enables the project to survive much longer. And one of those ways is an appreciating floor. So you have your liquidity pool, and we'll use Safemoon still. And Safemoon has the BNB, and it has the Safemoon. And that determines the price, is the ratio. And then what an appreciating floor does is it has its regular LP, but it also has a secondary LP. It's a second liquidity pool. And what this liquidity pool does is it backs all of the tokens. So it has BUSD, and every token is backed by the amount of BUSD in this secondary liquidity pool. So instead of having a liquidity pool where people put in a little bit of money and are able to take out a lot, you have a liquidity pool that equally gives it to everybody. Because this secondary liquidity pool equally backs all the tokens, it changes the floor value, because the floor value is usually 0. But if all the tokens are being backed by a secondary liquidity pool, then the amount in the liquidity pool divided by the amount of tokens that exist creates a new floor. What's really cool about this is that this does not fuel the whale dominance problem. It's not something they can take advantage of. Reflections they can sell, rewards have to be sold. Appreciating floor, the floor starts at 0. As that secondary liquidity pool fills up, it permanently increases the amount at which the floor goes up. And basically your bag can never go below the floor value. And what that means is, if say the floor starts here and the price starts here, let's say the price is at $1, floor is at 1 cent. If a big sell-off happens and the price goes here and the floor, because of the selling, moves up, then this would be the best time to buy. Because if you buy right here, then as the volume moves up and down and up and down, the floor can only move up from there. And it moves up slowly. But if it ever gets to that point right there, where it meets where you bought in, then your bag will be fully covered, fully collateralized, which means that you can never lose your initial investment once the floor gets to the point where you bought in. So the best time to buy is when the price is closest to the floor. So there actually is a pre-sale going on for this project right now. The project is Daylight Protocol. And what they've done is not only do they have this appreciating floor, but the whole project is based around fueling that floor. So the taxes, 5% buy, 20% sell, those heavily fuel the floor, and so does their utilities. And they actually do kind of have some interesting utilities lined up as far as launch pads and some possible big connections that could make it very wealthy launch pads where 50% of their profit will be used to all go to the floor. And once again, it's a deflationary token. Another huge thing about being deflationary is every time tokens are burned, that's less tokens that the secondary liquidity pool has to cover, and therefore the floor value moves up every time tokens are burned. So it's actually a really cool concept. So you guys, the pre-sale is live right now. If you guys want to check this out, I do want to tell you a couple things. One, people got in at 25 cents in the seed sale. The pre-sale is buying it at 80 cents. And the launch will be at $1. So these people will be at a 4x, and these people will be up a certain percentage. So if you do the pre-sale, you have to make your own risk if you anticipate that the seed sellers are going to be selling on you. But it could just be an opportunity if you do the pre-sale to buy and sell yourself. You just have to be careful about bots unless you're good with that type of stuff. Or you could just hope, if you like this project, if at launch, if the project tanks, that you can get a low price where the price is closest to the floor. And my personal recommendation is that this is the best approach to it. But at the same time, if you're somebody who wants to do the pre-sale, I would just tell you two things. Finish this video, because I'm going to include a lot of information that's important to that decision. That includes a lot of pros and a lot of cons of doing that. And if you do the pre-sale, then just know that I get a percentage of everybody who uses my link for the pre-sale, and that's basically the project gives that to me. So you actually get 2% off for using that link. So if you want to do the pre-sale, you get 2% off if you use my link. If you don't use that link, you don't get 2% off. So it's just purely if you want to do the pre-sale and you want to use my link, you get 2% off, and it supports me. But like I said, guys, I strongly recommend that you finish this video, because I'm going to include 2 videos I've made on this, and there's a lot of important information in there. So I'm going to start those videos now. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments after you finish those videos. Every project has a floor where the price can go to 0 and your bag has the potential to become worthless. But what if the floor of the project was able to rise in price? What if the tax and the profit from the utility was used to raise the price of the floor and the price? Daylight Token, pre-sale launching November 8th, will implement a technology that gives back to all the holders through an ever-appreciating floor, meaning the floor value of the price will be collateralized or backed by a separate pool that covers the value of all the tokens that exist. Then the taxes and the profit from utilities will be used to increase that floor value of Daylight as well. What this means is a percentage of every token will be backed by a pool that cannot go down in value, and because the buy and sell tax and the profit from utility will all feed into raising both the floor and the price of Daylight. The buy tax is 5%. 2% burn, 1% rewards, 1% sell burn, 1% redeem buyback. Sell tax is the same, but in order to counter sharp sell-offs is 20% with 8% burn, 4% rewards, 4% sell burn, and 4% redeem buyback. Anytime a token is burned, it decreases the amount of tokens that the collateralized pool has to cover. So anytime tokens are burned, the price of the floor permanently moves upward. The rewards are collected and put into farming pools to collect rewards for stakers. The sell burn sells the Daylight tokens to the liquidity pool, but then burns twice as much Daylight tokens to increase the price.
then takes the BUSD it sold for and puts them into the contract to permanently increase the floor price. Redeem buyback will take tokens and redeem them for floor value, which is 100% collateralized, meaning it doesn't take away from the floor value at all, and then uses those redeemed tokens, the BUSD, to buy and burn daylight tokens, raising the actual price while not negatively affecting the floor price. This project has the appreciating floor as a never before seen mechanism in the DeFi world. Buyback and burn is amazing, especially from profit from utility, but appreciating floor cannot be taken advantage of by whales. But when buyback and burn happens, whales can quickly sell and take advantage of it. But an appreciating floor cannot be taken advantage of by whales because it gives to all the holders equally to back their bags to the degree that the floor appreciates. Buyback and burn raises the price while appreciating floor raises the floor price. If a massive sell-off happens, not only will the tax heavily increase the floor, but if the price gets close to the floor, then the floor is designed to have arbitrage opportunities for investors to make money, so that the price of daylight will always operate above the floor to a certain extent, guaranteed, but still have the potential for massive price growth of 100x or 1000x. The more volume and profit from utility, the more your entire bag is covered. A project that's main purpose of tokenomics and profit from utility, which include a DEX and launchpad, is to give back to all holders, permanently providing an ever-increasing floor and a safety net where even if everyone's sold, you can still redeem your bag for the floor value, because the floor value is covered for everyone and can only go up. Yet, it still has the potential for the price of daylight tokens to moon or 1000x while using all the tax from buys and sells and the profit to increase the floor price of daylight tokens, providing an increasing stability and safety of your bag while also providing the possibility for the mooning of the price. Daylight launches the presale on November 8th, and this is the link to the presale and will give you 2% of what you buy airdropped back to you as well as support me. This is the only link that will airdrop back to you 2% of what you purchase at presale. I will respond to any and all questions down in the comments. If you guys have any questions, I will make sure to address any of your questions, and I'll see you guys on the launch day of Daylight. Hey guys, I just want to talk about Project Daylight, and I get a percentage of everybody who uses my link through the presale. I just want to make that say that up front so that everybody knows that I get a percentage. If you use my link for the presale, you get 2% back of what you get for that link as well. So basically it's save yourself 2% and support me, or just buy it if you want to do the presale. Now I want to talk about the pros and cons and the potentials of the presale just to start off with this video. There was what it was called the seed sale, and there was, I believe, $180,000 that was raised, and at the seed sale the cost was 25 cents. Then the pre-sale is going to happen tomorrow. The amount as of right now is 1,800,000, and the pre-sale price is 0.80. And then the launch, whenever they launch, I think it'll be about a week after the pre-sale, it should be launching at $1 per token. So at launch, the pre-sale people will be up, and the seed sale people will be up by 4x. And what that means is that at the launch, it launches at $1, and then you have all the people who got in at 80 cents, however many people that is that do the pre-sale, and all the people that got in at 25 cents. So if you do the pre-sale, you'll get in at 0.80, and at launch, just like any other launch, there will be the potential for people to sell. And there'll be the potential for all the other people that do the pre-sale to sell, including yourself. And there'll be the potential for all the people that did the seed sale to sell as well. It starts off at $1, and it sells down, and the price goes down. Then the floor will also move up a certain percentage up towards the price as the price goes down. And the best time to buy, if you're interested in this project, is when the floor and the price are closest to each other. So if a major sell-off happens at launch, then the best time to buy would be the bottom, because that's going to be the closest that the price is to the floor. If you're buying the bottom, nobody knows the bottom, and it could be potentially the cheapest time to buy, but it's always a risk, because it's like if it sells down to less than 80 cents, then if you bought in at pre-sale, then you're not buying in at the cheapest point. you could have bought in. If the price dumps down past 80 cents at launch, you got in on the pre-sale, but you could have waited and got in cheaper. The other potential is that it doesn't dump below 80 cents. And if you had gotten in on the pre-sale, then you got in at a cheap price because no one's dumping. So it just kind of depends on you personally. Do you think it's going to dump or not dump? Are you trying to sell on the pre-sale? Are you trying to outsell bots on the pre-sale? Are you going to be able to do that? Or do you think that it's better to wait? I mean, these are all decisions that you personally have to make, because no matter what, it's a risk. It's a risk if you do the pre-sale and then it goes below pre-sale. It's a risk if you don't do the pre-sale and it doesn't go below pre-sale. It's a risk if you try to wait and buy a dip and it goes up and you don't get that chance and you could have saved money on the pre-sale. I think many people tend to think that it will dump, but I just can't guarantee what will happen in the future. I'm just trying to present you guys with the most honest approach. But the one thing I can tell you is the best time to buy is when the price is closest to the floor. I just can't guarantee if that'll be the pre-sale or if that'll be after the pre-sale. I think many people might feel like, hey, after the pre-sale, it's likely that these seed sailors who got in for 25 cents are going to take profits and that the price will go below 80 cents. And if it goes down, the more the price goes down, if you believe in this project, if you think that there's potential to make money, or if you like the future of this project, of everything they've had and you've done your own research, then the closer the price gets to the floor, the best time it is to buy in. Because if price starts at $1, let's just say hypothetically, a lot of the pre-salers and maybe even seed sailors dump, and it dumps to like say 50 cents, and that's your price, right? This is the price of the token, and then the floor will profit off of that dump because 20% of sales go to feeding the floor, as do buys as well during this time will also go towards feeding the floor value. So the floor value will also go up as well. I don't know what it would go up to, but let's just say the floor value goes up to 10 cents. It's hard to tell exactly what would move the floor because you have to understand the percentage at which the buying and the selling affects the raising of the floor, and it's very hard to tell what volume is going to be, how much of the volume is going to be selling, how much of it's going to be buying. I think you tend to lean towards think that the volume for buys is going to be more than the volume for sells, but the volume for sells is going to have a bigger impact on the floor as well. So if this scenario happens and you see that the floor value goes up to 10 cents and the price is at 50, the reason that this is the best time to buy is because the best time to buy is if the price does dump. I can't guarantee that it will, but if the price dumps, the floor goes up and the price goes down. And the closer that you get to that point, the 50 cent point right here, now the floor only has to go up to 50 cents to get to the point where your initial investment is fully covered. Because if the floor can get to where you initially buy in, then your investment is fully covered. People might think that this seems more unlikely that people don't dump, but if people don't dump like crazy and the price doesn't go below the pre-sale price, then the pre-sale price will be the closest that the floor is to the price. The pre-sale price would be the best point to buy in if the price doesn't dump below the 80 cents. But there is this potential that if the price doesn't dump below 80 cents, that this would be the closest the price and the floor ever is, and that basically you'd be hoping for the floor to go up to fully collateralize or back your bag. So the floor would have to reach 80 cents. And, they gave me some numbers on what it would take to get to that point, basically. And if the sells back the floor at 20% and the buys back the floor at 5%, then I believe the numbers that I got were, and this is not considering a lot of other factors, but basically purely on volume, it would take, I believe, 90 million in buys to get the floor to $1. Sorry, this is all over the place. And then it would take 22.5 million in sells to fuel the floor to get that much money to get the floor to $1, where your bag is fully backed if you're buying at launch. Now, if you're buying at the pre-sale, or if you got in on the seed sale, which I don't know anybody that did, then the floor does not have to go up much to cover your bag, which is pretty nice for the seed sellers. You might expect the seed sailors, because at people that got in on the seed sale, that 180,000 at 25 cents a token, are going to be at a 4x at launch. So you have to think, are these people going to sell? Do they have bots set up to sell? Or are they going to be confident that the floor will get up to 25 cents because it won't take nearly as much to get the floor to 25 cents as it would to get the floor to 80 cents? Kind of just depends on the volume that you expect. And that volume doesn't include the fact that as tokens are being burned, that it also requires less volume to raise the floor, because as you burn tokens, the backed pool has to cover less tokens. And I'll try to explain that right now, because so basically you have your basic liquidity pool that has your BUSD and your daylight token, and that determines the price. And then you have a separate liquidity pool, that backs all of the tokens with BUSD, and it does it equally. So it's what Ted, whenever he talks about fractional liquidity, is talking about. It basically means that whatever goes into this liquidity pool covers all tokens, every single tokens equally. So it's like if there's 100 tokens and you put $1 and everybody gets equally a part of that dollar, then everybody gets 1 penny. So it's distributing wealth in a more fair way. So that backed liquidity pool backs all the tokens that exist equally. And this is where this daylight token is a really cool idea, but it doesn't guarantee its success. And there's not necessarily something that guarantees its failure. It's just a risk that I'm presenting as an opportunity for people if they want to take a chance on it. If they don't, if there's something that stands out to you in your mind, then stay away from that. But I would definitely recommend finishing this video before you buy, because I'm going to bring up all the pros and all the cons that I've heard to this point. But basically, it backs all the tokens equally. Because it backs it all equally, it creates these two different prices. This price can go up and down and down and up, but this price can only move up, and it does it at a much slower rate. But the entire point of this token is that the taxes and the utility are designed to fuel the raising of the floor. This technology comes from XUSD, which is a token that basically it takes a very small tax, I think it's like 0.25 or something tax of every buy and sell, and it applies it evenly to all the tokens so that nobody can get a ton of tokens that they can therefore get this huge gain on and then take everybody's liquidity. The liquidity is being shared evenly and everybody's paying into it a small amount. And basically it takes that idea and it allows for these two different prices, the regular price and the floor value to go up. That's where it creates this fun idea where you have the price, but you also have the floor value, and the floor value is designed to go up. It is slowly and is over a long period of time. The floor value does not determine that the price cannot dump, right? The price could dump on, and the floor value will only meet it like a certain percentage up. I think it's like 16% of dumps or something like that will the price move upward against, the floor will move upward against the price coming down. And it's just a really cool idea that with the rising of the floor, will it allow for the price to move up with it in that sense? Or the other alternative is that, the floor only moves up slowly enough to not really stop that, price, dropping after a long certain point of time. And my goal is to not mislead you in either way, because I don't want to lead you into thinking, oh, this is guaranteed a win, a W, I don't want to deceive you into thinking that it's an L. If it does really well and I talk you out of it because I didn't portray it correctly. And I think within this space we find people are usually not in the middle. They're usually on one side or the other. They're usually saying, yeah, my project's a W. But if they go look at other projects, they go, oh, that's a scam, blah, blah, blah. So everybody always has these double standards. And, my entire point is that, I do not know 100% what the project is going to do, and I'm just trying to present it as an opportunity. And no matter what, no matter how much information you have, and you should get as much information as possible, you don't know what's going to happen, and it's always a risk. The important thing is to not withhold positive or negative information when it comes to this. So I'm going to go over some pros and cons and some general information. The team is doxed. If you go to their website, you can see that the team is doxed. They have their first name, but they don't have their last name. Sorry, I'm just going to write real crappily because I'm just trying to get this video out so that people can have all the information. if you're deciding to invest in Daylight. So they have their first name, and then they have the last name, but they only have the first letter of the last name. However, I have the first and last name of the main guy, Ted. I have his last name as well as he's put out videos of himself talking and stuff. So if something did happen, then I would basically be putting out a video doxing his full first and last name and showing all the information that I have of him, which I don't think he'll do, but it's just nice safety to have that. Because we just don't know in this space. As much as we want to trust each other, there's too many scammers and rug pullers. The liquidity is not locked. So the liquidity is not locked. It's what's actually behind a multi-sig. And basically it takes 3 people to unlock the liquidity. They all have to agree to do that. And that's what the liquidity is behind. So it's not like this time period of where they don't have access to the liquidity, but they're basically able to, it takes all 3 people to agree to do that. And, the idea is that if they need to move it, then it's not stuck for a long time, right? But you also want there to be accountability if something happened to the liquidity. And these are important things that you have to keep in mind based on how you feel about the project. If you feel like this is too risky, or if you feel confident about it. If you're not sure, you can always reach out to the team and try to satisfy your concerns. So I'm going to go over some FUD that I've seen that I think is worth being addressed as much as it sucks. Basically, there was a rumor that Ted, the founder of the project, used Tornado Cash. And I can't withhold that information from you guys. I have to tell you about that. I reached out to Ted. I said, hey, Ted, there's rumors going around that you use Tornado Cash. And Ted basically, he said, yes, I've been very public and open that I've used Tornado Cash because there's other uses for Tornado Cash other than hiding that you stole money and are trying to hide where you got that money. And that was basically that he has an ENS, which is, instead of having like OXCO31 whatever, instead of that, you just have I would have crypto control. And then it would be a public address that people could send funds to. And so Ted had one like that. And basically he's saying that he wants to, and that many other people use Tornado Cash to get the funds from their public address to their SEX that they are off-ramping on, because they don't want people to know their SEX or the amounts of money or whatever it might be that are going through there. That's his reasoning for that. And I think it's important that you guys know the accusation here, that he used that, and his response, and you come to your own conclusion whether you trust that or not, or whether it seems too sketchy or not. That basically it comes down to your decision. My own personal perspective is that there is a really cool tech. It's something that hasn't been done before, and it is an appreciating floor. And not only is that really cool because it creates this safety blanket that's constantly growing, which is the rising of the floor. Because if the floor gets past where you bought in, then your bag, it's literally impossible for your bag to ever go below where you bought in. And it creates this safety blanket. So, even though those seed people are in at 25, if the price can get to 25.25, then whatever they put in is fully collateralized, it's fully covered, and it can only go up from there. Worst case scenario, no volume, nothing, no utility raises the volume, and they redeem their money back. And the idea, I think, would be that creates a sense of safety that could lead to investors not selling or dumping as often as they would, because they know that the floor could keep rising. And instead of the price having this ability to go all the way down to zero, instead, the amount that it can go down to is always raising. And I think that the potential for this project is that if the floor keeps rising, which it does actually have the potential to rise a lot if there's high volume and high burns, and if their profit from their utility is good as well, which they have launch pads for some blockchains that are coming out, I believe. and that 50% of their profit from the utility is going to be used to raise the floor as well. So for me personally, I think it's a really cool idea with actually interesting utility that, for me, the utilities do not matter how amazing they sound or don't sound. It's just, do they bring in profit or not? And is that profit, how much of that profit's being used? They're doing a launch pad that hopefully is heavily used. They're doing a gambling casino thing. And I think that those have potential to definitely bring in funds, and that those funds will also be used to raise the floor. But the really interesting part of this is going to be the psychology of investors of, does a raising price floor instill confidence in whales to not try to outsell each other out of fear of losing their bags? Or if the floor raises enough, does it allow for a new FOMO to kick in that wouldn't be present in the past, where the floor could always go to zero? And to me, like, this is where this project is really cool. And where it's not necessarily the coolest is, that the idea that the team isn't like necessarily completely doxed in the sense that they have their last names out there. There is the multi-sig, which means that if those three people agree, they have access to the liquidity. That's also a concerning thing as an investor. There's the concern for the seed sailors that got in at 25 cents to dump on the charts. But if you believe in the project, then you can take that risk and say, you know what, I'm going to wait for these guys to dump, and when they dump, I'm going to try to buy at what I think is a good price, and I'll be getting in on a project that I believe in that's in a good price. That's assuming you believe in the project. If you don't believe in the project, then don't buy it. So all these different risks, all these different opportunities, and at the end of the day, nobody knows the future. Anybody who says, "Oh, I knew that wasn't going to do well," they're lying. Nobody knows the future. Or I knew that was going to do well. Nobody knows. So it's just an opportunity to take money, and I definitely recommend people to be smart about it and to go about their money with a smart plan. Me personally, some projects, it just depends. Some projects, it's like, if you're not super bullish on this project, maybe take out your initial so that you at least don't fear. But when you take out your initial, if the price goes up, say 2x, then your bag is heavily affected on how big it would have been if you wouldn't have taken out your initial. So it's like there literally is zero. There is not a position in which there's not a risk. You could ignore this project and it was an opportunity to make money. You're taking a risk and ignoring it. Or you can buy in it and you're taking a risk to lose money. So there's just always a risk of it, the price doing the opposite of what you think it's going to do and you missing that opportunity. But there's always the risk of the price doing the opposite of what you're thinking it's going to, Yeah, like I said earlier, if you use my link, you get 2% back of what you use. That's if you want to do the pre-sale. I don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. That's assuming you want to buy it all. I'll be doing a live stream going over all this information. I'll keep talking to you guys about the possibilities, both negative and positive, to try to provide as realistic a perspective as possible to let you guys decide for yourselves if you want to take a risk or not on this project, because nobody can guarantee the future. And I'll see you guys in the live stream